I'd have to say that the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 saw a pretty big movement in the eyes of gamers worldwide, and how we've been playing games since before their release. For once, we saw a generation of consoles with graphics beginning to become as believable as real life, and online community as personalized and compatible as ever before, almost foregoing the couch multiplayer in favor for more overseas connectivity.
And yeah, we also got these guys.
I'll be back around Sanctuary later. I might have something good for you then.
Hey everybody, this is BZK again, back with another game essay, and I'd like to bring up a thought I've had recently, and that being, are achievements, and trophies for that matter, a blessing or a curse when it comes to game design? Now to add a little history into the mix, when I got my first Xbox 360 back in 2009, every single day after school, non-fucking stop, would I be getting myself one step closer to 100%ing a game's achievement list so that I could throw it aside and pop in the next game where I would do the exact same thing. Hell, I'm surprised I even got any fucking homework done because this ain't no fucking Arna student you're listening to right now. Hey, my gamer score for my Xbox account is over 120,000 at the time of the release of this video. Back in the early days when I was collecting this shit like fucking food stamps, I was averaging about 20,000 gamer score a year. But in the end, after years of completing achievement lists and completing these objectives day after day, sure I had fun, but I don't think it was really worth it. I am still very happy with what achievements became for games to the extent of content. Before this generation of gaming, when a game was released, the satisfaction you got from completing a game came from the hours you poured into it, unlocking every little power-up, secret character, alternate ending, or extra level it had to offer. Sure, after that, there was no real advantage other than bragging rights, but you pretty much got to experience what the entire game had to offer by trying out absolutely everything. With this kind of experience for a game, this is where achievements play the blessing and curse that I'm pointing out. On one hand, achievements are great for giving a player an incentive to experience different modes or implements of gameplay that they'd otherwise skip entirely, in favor of the game style that they've been used to from a franchise's previous titles, or the most basic form of progression. On the other hand, achievements, depending on how they are implemented, can affect how a player will experience a game, sometimes never incorporating certain options or game modes that the developers obviously put a lot of work into, leaving what could have possibly been a fun little add-on to a game's content now left to obscurity simply because there wasn't a worthwhile objective attached to the feature. Take, for example, the most obvious release for a player's boost to their gamer score in the history of this implementation, Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Burning Earth. Anybody who's decided to seek out this title knows how the developers implemented the achievements. Literally from starting a new game up, you can score yourself the full 1,000 simply by mashing the B button for about a minute and a half. Even the fucking Wikipedia page tells you that it's notable for this. Now, yeah, you can make the argument that the game isn't very good, or that the game was only meant to cater to the fans of the TV series, but that doesn't excuse the lack of creativity when making this achievement list, because behind this shallow excuse of a quick gamerscore fix, there is still an entire game that developers worked hard on to provide to the general public. So it doesn't really look good on the developer's part when the average playtime for their game was shorter than an elementary school's recess period. This kind of thing really fucking flourished in the infant days of the 7th generation, with achievement lists as short as being able to count them on 2 hands, or even lists whose gamerscore never actually added up to the full 1,000. But considering at the time where the feature was brand new to an audience first experiencing this extra level of objectives, you can't really expect a whole mess load of creativity. A game that I think dealt with an achievement list quite like no other was for Left 4 Dead 2. Looking at all the different objectives provided, you got achievements ranging from different modes the player can enjoy, completing different parts of the single-player campaign, as well as encouraging online play. You have easy achievements that can be done by just about anybody. You have achievements that requires a fair amount of skill that players can get from tackling the gameplay in various methods. You got achievements that are so ludicrous in their design that give the player an objective that they'd otherwise not have performed because they wouldn't have thought of it in the first place, and that give the player this sense of creativity and outside-the-box mentality to the game's structure. I myself own Left 4 Dead 2, and I cannot begin to tell you how much fun I've had simply from having some friends play alongside with me and tackling some of the harder achievements on the list. Sure, we may not always have completed them when we started the game up, but even then the game was providing us with this replayability that not many other games had given us over the years. Now, yeah, I know, not every single list available for a game is a complete waste of creativity. There are plenty of games that offer a fair challenge and an extra incentive to experience what more a game has to offer. But what my major gripe with lists is that once they're completed, the games attached to them usually find themselves sitting on a gamer's shelf collecting dust, or even being traded in for a different game to complete with the same intent. I find myself guilty to this exact same method of game experience. There have been games I've bought and handed back for the sole purpose of increasing that score that at the end of the day means nothing in the grand scheme of things other than forcing myself to play through a game that I wouldn't have played otherwise. Some may see that's a good thing, that I'm expanding my experience on other titles and enjoying different games that are available. But if I'm only playing games to inflate an online persona's gamer score or experience, and then tossing the game away days later, that kind of shows that I didn't really care for the game in the first place and wanted what would only benefit me virtually. Overall, I do wish game developers could incorporate their achievements more wisely, placing objectives for them with as much creativity and variety that some games do, with the incentive of trying new modes and features it has to offer for players, to fall in love with years down the line, and hopefully spark interest with franchises that may deserve it more than others. This is BZK, and I will see you guys next time.